Last week, we discussed the intricacies of Rika's character and how she employed resistance through deflecting and sidestepping the truth. I, being the main character and de facto leader of the squad, recognized this week that Rika is complicated, and of course, we get this really somber moment after they beat the Wonder Killer. But I think what surprised me the most this week was how they managed to weave in the last member of our cast. She's been featured in the opening and of course the cover art, but I honestly didn't think we'd see her so soon. I was thinking we had one more episode with Rika and Neru, but they just dropped her on us and it at first felt very intrusive, considering we were left on a cliffhanger. But as the episode progressed, it felt natural, and it really came together in the brilliant parallel storytelling they used. Parallel storytelling is essentially having two simultaneous narrative threads. These threads can be linked by plot through multiple perspectives. Think Durarara, and how many of the episodes showed the same sequence of events through the perspectives of the cast. Parallel storytelling can also use characters as a common thread. Think Kakushigoto, and how we get multiple jumps in time with the same characters, with it converging as the show progresses. And then there's thematic links, such as Yef, A Tale of Memories, where the characters are by and large separated, and yet the themes in both journeys are interlinked. So what happens in WonderEggPriority? Well, there isn't a plot link, the girls are fighting their own battles. There isn't a character link, we're introduced to someone completely new. So that leaves us with a thematic link. And I think the way they presented these two battles not only let us understand Momoe, but also eased her into the cast while providing, maybe not a grandiose theme, but the same emotions and atmosphere to get us invested in her character. Our first introduction to Momoe happens at the beginning in an abrupt manner, considering the flow of narrative didn't hint her to be the first thing we see in a new episode. But through this short encounter, we get a sense of who Momoe is. She seems very gentle and kind, almost non-combative in her gestures and mannerisms, but she's not to be trifled with, and through the parallel storytelling, this is conveyed very organically. To frame the inevitable jump, where Momoe is already fighting the Wonder Killer, which again has no context except the first scene, we need a primer. We need some way to ease in the fact that during her off-screen time, the train stops, who knows how much more they talked, the Wonder Killer has found them, and then she's already engaged in combat. That's a lot. In fact, the train we was on doesn't even look like the train we start with, which makes me think they moved location to this abandoned train graveyard and were hiding until found. Again, none of this is told to us. There's a jump in continuity, but this change in location wasn't jarring. It wasn't confusing, and I think the best way for the show to hide that plot progression was to put the shots in parallel. That's why, before we actually jump to her fighting, we get some screen time with Ai. It helps progress her story, considering it's the one we just got cliffhung on, but it's also thematically parallel. Ai is being pushed back by her Wonder Killer and gets a power-up from the idol fans before fighting back. The beats we need to hit are the main hero being pushed back, a power-up, and then they're evenly matched. So, let's now jump to the parallel shot with Momoe, where she's fending off the Wonder Killer. Here, we get the same beats. Momoe is pushed back, she gets a power-up, or at least an opening, and then they're evenly matched. Of course, in that short sequence, it's more condensed and the beats aren't as one-to-one, but the fact that both scenes share the same emotions and moments make them intertwined. It's the same fight, just with two different people, and with two different creatures. And even if we don't know exactly how Momoe got from point A to point now, it doesn't matter. We as an audience understand what's happening because we do know how I got from her point A to point now, and they're showing us that it's the same. Even while watching for the first time, the dissonance of the two scenes wasn't jarring, because on a visual level, the two fights are similar. Ai is fighting back and roughing it with her Wonder Killer just as much as Momoe is. These parallel scenes work on multiple levels to make sure there is clarity. Now, with the momentum of these parallel scenes in motion, they don't pull any stops. We cut back to Ai, who's getting destroyed by projectiles and takes a punish by dropping her guard. But of course, with the parallel storytelling still intact, we cut just before another attack hits Ai. This builds tension, suspense, keeps the scene engaging and exciting. Then we move to Momoe, who is getting pushed back by her Wonder Killer's special move. Of course, Momoe here blocks it because she has a nifty umbrella weapon. And now, it's time for the Momoe storyline to foreshadow Ai's fight. Momoe is blocking a blast, and guess what happens to Ai? The idol fans are blocking the strike. We don't need to see the motion of how that happened, of how they got there. It just makes sense through the visual similarity of what's on screen, and we accept the situation. The last bit of parallel storytelling was an extremely nice visual treat. After Ai's Wonder Killer gets repelled by the power of idols, as one does, we quick cut back to Momoe for a brief moment. Here, we get the setup for Miwa's distraction, and more importantly, setting up the kill for Momoe. The interesting thing is, this parallel shot has already been done in episode 1. And I really enjoyed that directorial callback to the Ai roof walking scene. So yeah, after Miwa walks up to the Wonder Killer, we cut to Ai walking to her Wonder Killer. This is also where we not only get this visual sync, but also a audio sync. The song persists to Momoe's side, becoming non-diegetic, but again, not jarring. Since the scenes are so parallel, even as the song bleeds into a different plot altogether, it doesn't come off as strange. It's fitting and carries the energy throughout as the show prepares for a climactic action finish. The jumps here are quicker to hype up the action and pacing. We get the parallel shots of the two running towards their Wonder Killers, and then the final strikes are swapped. When Momoe delivers her final strike, it cuts to Ai, further syncing the two stories and displaying just how similar these two battles were, despite us not seeing most of Momoe's side. By making everything similar, the emotional payoff of Ai getting the hit is now also something we share with Momoe, despite us just meeting her. Also, the parting words of Momoe's Wonder Killer are, "Women are quick to deceive," which cuts to Ai because she gets deceived by a woman, and then the rest is history, as Rika saves the day. All of this is to say, the directing is on point. I think the choice to hide exposition from Momoe and to get her up to speed with the audience by hiding her battle through Ai's fight was so well intentioned and made the two plots move naturally together. Parts of Ai's fight informed our expectation for Momoe's fight. Parts of Momoe's fight informed expectation for Ai's fight, and this back and forth solidified and justified their bond even before they've met. I think along with making sure there was cohesion in introducing a character in the middle of someone else's story, this parallel storytelling showed how similar the two struggles were and allowed insight into Momoe even before we really get to know her. With the entire ensemble, I'm really excited because this show can go whatever direction it wants to. I'm still crossing my fingers for a slice of life-ish episode where we just get to know the characters more, but the other option is arc-based storytelling for each cast member, which is also acceptable yet predictable. Either way, with the entire cast in our hands, we really do have a lot of room to work with, considering we're only 4 episodes in. Also, just a little bit of a side note, I haven't really been talking about some of the greater societal themes and critiques that WonderEggPriority is trying to do. In these episode reviews, I'm just going through the things that I found interesting within the show, within the episodes, not necessarily as a whole. I obviously can see that WonderEggPriority is talking about a lot of serious issues like mental health, like suicide and bullying, and I want to give some attention to another source that has been doing that kind of discussion, which is this blog, Atelier Emily, which is this blog that does a lot of, well, I know them for doing a lot of flower analysis. So WonderEggPriority has a lot of flower language, and this blog does a great job of showcasing that, but they also dive into themes and discussion just as much as I do. So I just wanted to shout them out because this is another great area of discussion that I really enjoy engaging in as well.